Australia has always been seen as this lucky country, but more and more it doesn't really feel like that anymore. It honestly kind of feels like a boiling pot right now, and I'm not here to whinge, and I'm not here to try and start some outrage campaign. I just want to talk about how real people are living and how it's getting harder, not easier, because lately it's been feeling like we're being left behind, and when I say we, I mean the regular person. So let me just start with the part that really sets the tone for everything I'm talking about, and that's income, what people actually take home. Not just the number on your payslip. I'm talking about what that number actually buys you in 2025, because that's where the whole thing starts to fall apart. Recently, we actually broke a record, and not the kind that you're going to see on a tourism campaign. Australia has had the biggest drop in real household disposable income in the developed world. So pretty much the average Australian weekly pay is worth less because everything else is so expensive. Like, let that sink in. Out of all the advanced economies, we've gone backwards the most, which shouldn't be the case for any advanced economy. Since 2022, real household income in Australia has fallen by 8%, not because everyone's suddenly working less, but it's just because the cost of everything else went up and our wages didn't. Like, that's what people mean when they say real wages are falling. Your pay might be going up on paper, but you're still poorer than you were 2 years ago. For instance, if someone earns $100K in 2025, they're technically only earning $92,000 if you compare that to the same wage in 2022. Meanwhile, countries like the US, real incomes are up 8.6, Canada's up 5.5. Like, Australia was one of the only developed worlds to go backwards. And that 8% loss isn't just a number on a spreadsheet. It's a pressure that builds up in your everyday life, and it's what makes you double check your bank balance before saying yes to going out to dinner or anything like that. And this stat is so ridiculous because for a while, my rent alone was eating up a massive chunk of my income. It kind of felt like I was just working to survive, and that's not some dramatic exaggeration. That's just the reality for a growing chunk of people, even full-time workers, even people doing, quote, everything right. All of them are still struggling. Like, I'm honestly just trying to live somewhere comfortable. That's literally all I'm asking for. But housing in Australia is completely detached from reality. We have one of the highest house price to income ratios in the world. So I didn't know what that meant either until I looked into it. But pretty much that just means that the average Australian household income is way less than the price of the property they are living in. And when the average house price is pushing $1 million, it makes complete sense why Australia has the biggest house price to income ratio. You basically need a 6-figure income and no debt just to compete. And even then, it's tight. And if you're renting, you're definitely not safe either. Like, rent is no longer just the cheaper option to use while you work on buying a house. Rent has gone up 20 to 30% in some suburbs and more in others. Just in the last 2 years, it feels like landlords keep jacking up the prices, but there's still nowhere to live, meaning that renters are just forced to accept this reality. It just feels like real estate is just a rich man's game at this point. Like, some people bought property when it was way more affordable and now they're set. There's this certain age bracket that's lived at least double the amount of time that we have, who in this time frame have bought a house that's gone up in value, and they probably even have a few investment properties. And while they've been earning rental income or watching their assets grow before we were even born, we are now out here just trying to save to get a house while paying more than half of our income on rent alone. And it's not about envy at all, it's honestly just reality. If you got in early, the system worked for you, and if you didn't, it's a whole different game now. And that's the thing, man, it really is a different game. But we're still being told to play by the same rules, save hard, buy young, invest smart. Problem is, like I was saying before, the prices have moved way faster than our pay has. And that goes for everything we're buying, even to our groceries. So us keeping up at this point is kind of a distant reality. It's almost like you're jumping into a COD match as a level 1 player on Christmas Day, like a Christmas noob. And you start to play the game with no perks or loadouts. You literally just have the default gear. But of course, you're going to have to go up against someone else who's been playing a crazy amount of the game, who's probably Prestige Master with all the best stuff unlocked. I know it's crazy to compare it to a COD game, but that's truly how it feels in Australia right now. Australians talk a lot about owning your own home and things like that, like it's a birthright for Australians. But for a massive chunk of this generation, it's just not realistic anymore. Like, we used to think of housing as something you'd eventually grow into, not something that only the rich or trust fund kids could afford. Like, it doesn't even feel like a housing market anymore, it just feels more like a casino. A casino for the rich people and even international investors. Sometimes being so rich that they'll just think like, yeah, screw it, I'll buy this house halfway across the world without even looking into it. And you know what, they'll probably sit on that land for a couple years and not even rent it out or sell it. But I also want to talk about where money is actually going, not just our paychecks, but just in the bigger picture. Back in the 90s, about 2/3 of all bank lending in Australia went to businesses. So I'm talking about stuff that made things, whether it was farming, factories, tech, or anything like that. But now it's flipped completely. Nearly 70% of all bank lending today goes into housing, and that's not even building new places. That's just people borrowing money to buy existing houses, usually, especially right now, for far way more than they're worth. So it feels like the whole of Australia is just borrowing money from each other when they sell houses. They're just making it pass through as much hands as they can, increasing the price every time so someone just takes money. It's like an infinite money glitch for the rich, pretty much. It feels like as a country, instead of funding new businesses, we're just sort of recycling debt through the housing market, buying high, selling higher, and repeating. And of course the banks love it, because it's heaps more safe and more profitable for them. And it's just this feedback loop, man, that just locks us in. It feels like to buy a house, you have to borrow more than ever just to live. And if you rent, there's barely no chance for you to save up to borrow in the future. And the crazy thing about the housing, man, the more people that get priced out, the more desperate people are to get in. So the cycle will just continue forever. Meanwhile, other countries' housing markets have sort of moved on. You know, the US has sort of started to invest in companies, like especially tech companies. Other countries are focused on manufacturing. Other countries on building machines, cars, and all kinds of stuff. It feels like they're invested in the future, while Australia is just still banking on already built houses. And like, don't get me wrong, property's always going to be a part of an economy. But when it becomes the whole economy, when all the energy and time and cash is going into housing, pre-existing housing, everything else gets starved. We're basically a nation hooked on real estate right now. Open homes every Saturday, with crowds going out into the street, 20 people applying for one rental. And people just treating housing like it's the only path to wealth. But for a lot of people, it kind of is. But I'm literally just trying to live somewhere where I don't have to pay half my wage to live at. And of course, I don't have the answers. I'm not a politician. And I hate getting political. And I'm not claiming to know how to fix everything. But I'm just someone who's been living through this like everyone else. And honestly, just trying to understand how it got so hard to keep up. Like, it literally felt like it happened overnight. But I do know it shouldn't be this difficult just to live. To try and cover rent without anxiety, or to buy groceries without like triple checking the receipt. And of course, to have a little bit left over to enjoy life, not just survive life. Living life shouldn't be some luxury, like that's crazy. So if you feel like you've fallen behind, you're actually not imagining it. You're not lazy. You're not just bad with money. You're living in a system that's gotten way harder to navigate. And so many people are quietly going through the same thing, just feeling so stuck in place while everything around them gets more expensive. And this is not normal, man. This can't be normal. This can't just be adulting. I feel like there was a genuine shift into the way things are now. And we've just been expected to adapt, or to like hustle harder just to deal with it. Australia is actually cooked. I know other people come in my comments saying their countries like it too, but even just with the statistics that I've talked about today, it definitely proves that Australia is just on a different level. And it genuinely is just the rich people playing with rich people money, which is essentially the whole housing market, which sucks because people are at the other end of it, like just regular humans. Like, growing up, I never thought I would have wanted to live outside of Australia, but the more these years go on, it definitely seems like more of an option. To own a home seems so far-fetched now. And I'm honestly questioning whether I should just stop trying. But then it sucks because then I'm at the mercy of just rent prices. So whatever choice I make, it really does feel like a double-ended sword. But really curious of how you're dealing with everything that's going on. Like, regardless of where you're living, I know this is happening around the world. So let me know in the comments. I'm always super interested. As always, I appreciate you watching this video, especially if you've made it this far in. All my links are down below. That being my Instagrams, my streaming platform, my Twitter, and my clothing brand Memory Faded. Let me know if you like the Australia videos too, because I feel like I talk a lot about Australia, and I'm not too sure if people from other countries like it when I talk about Australia, like I know Australians do. So let me know that as well. I'm super curious. And also just in general, if you have any video ideas, let me know, because I'm always trying to think of stuff. But yeah, it's been Once Faded. Peace.